This object is the result of 5,000 years of human ingenuity. And before the rubber tree, before the factory, before the machine, there was something else entirely different. 3,000 years before the Common Era in ancient Egypt, the earliest documented evidence of contraceptive protection was recorded. The ancient Egyptians documented a linen sheath used for protection, the earliest recorded example of human ingenuity. From Egypt, the knowledge spread to Greece, to Rome, to China, and India, each civilization adapting the Romans and Greeks used bladders and intestines from animals, cleaned and craftsmen. In 15th century Europe, the spread of syphilis across the continent created an urgent need that craftsmen and physicians began trying to address. In 1564, Gabriele Falloppio of Padua documented a linen sheath soaked in a chemical. In London and Paris workshops in the early 1700s, craftsmen known as baudruche makers developed a systematic trade producing protective sheaths. These baudruche products, made from animal cecum membranes, were sold by street vendors in London and Paris throughout the 1700s and early 1800s. Vulcanization created a material that could stretch to extraordinary lengths without breaking and return to its original shape without deformation. The first rubber condoms manufactured in 1855 were thick and heavy by modern standards, requiring soaking in water. Side by side, the difference between the 1855 rubber version and the modern latex product represents over 100 years of material science manufacturing development.
In the 1920s, latex derived from replaced vulcanized rubber sheet entirely, and the
5,000 years compressed into a single timeline, each milestone building on the one before it. Each material replaced by something better. And today, the journey still begins at dawn in the rubber tree plantations of Southeast Asia. The material has changed completely. From linen to intestine to rubber to latex. The ancient craftsmen carried their animal intestines on foot or by cart. Today, the journey takes the raw material across hundreds of what began as a craft made by hand, one at a time in a small workshop, is now manufactured by automated systems producing nearly 6,000 units every minute. Step 1 of the modern manufacturing process, the natural rubber latex from the plantation, arrives at the compounding system, where it will be transformed from. These baudruche products made from animal cecum membranes were sold by street vendors in London and Paris throughout the 1700s and early 1800s. The same chemistry that Goodyear discovered when he accidentally dropped rubber and sulfur onto a hot stove in 1839, now performed with industrial precision. The ancient baudruche craftsmen soaked their intestinal membranes in sulfur solution for hours before they were usable. Today,
where the ancient craftsmen formed a single intel membrane by hand, the modern factory runs 10,000 precision glass formers simultaneously.
The coagulant coating is the invisible chemical preparation step that makes the precision of the dipping process possible. The dipping process, invented in the 1920s and still fundamentally unchanged. Glass formers enter the latex compound, clinging to the surface. Where the ancient craftsmen held the intestinal membrane up to the light to check its thickness and uniformity. The modern manufacturing process. The three-coat dipping process builds the product wall through sequential layers, each coat adding its measured contribution to the final wall thickness. The ancient craftsman tied a ribbon around the open end of his intestinal sheath. The modern mechanical beading roller forms the characteristic rim bead of the modern product.
When Charles Goodyear heated rubber and sulfur together in 1839, he created the chemistry that makes this oven possible.
Inside this chamber, the chemistry becomes permanent. The sulfur bonds lock between the polymer chains, creating a three-dimensional.
The ancient craftsmen stripped the intestinal membrane from its supporting tissue by hand. Today, warm water and virgins.
The ancient craftsmen soaked their intestinal membranes in alkaline solution to remove tissue and soften the material. Today, the modern process, where the ancient craftsman dried his completed products on wooden frames in a workshop, the modern manufacturing process uses industrial tumble dryers. These two objects are separated by 300 years of manufacturing development, but they serve precisely the same purpose, and both began their existence as natural materials. The ancient craftsman held his completed product up to the light and stretched it between his hands to check for holes or weak spots.
The electric spark that indicates a defect, the red indicator light, the mechanical rejection happening in milliseconds. This level of quality control was impossible before electronic measurement.
The ancient craftsmen used animal fats or olive oil as their lubricants, applied by hand to each individual product. the ancient craftsmen distributed their products wrapped in paper tied with string. Today, each individual product is sealed inside its own hermetic foil codes. A product with no batch identification, no quality guarantee, and no shelf life specification, to where every individual box, the final human inspection, the last pair of trained eyes to evaluate every completed box before it enters the global distribution chain. Intestines, where the ancient craftsman packed his products into a single wooden box and carried it to market, the modern manufacturing process builds shipment.
The ancient craftsmen worked by daylight in their London workshops. Today, this factory operates without stopping.
The same fundamental object, 5,000 years apart. One made by hand from an animal, one manufactured by automation from a tree, one tested by a craftsman holding it to the light.
From the workshop in London, where a craftsman sold products from a wooden tray, to the dispatch yard in Malaysia, where trucks carry millions of units.
The street vendor in 18th century London sold baudruche products from a wooden tray on a street corner. Today, the same fundamental product is available.
5,000 years of human ingenuity, from one craftsman making one product by hand to automated systems making 6,000 products per minute. If the ancient Egyptian who made the first linen sheath could see what their invention has become, they would recognize the purpose. They would not recognize the product. From the first linen sheath in ancient Egypt to this moment, a rubber tree being tapped before sunrise in Malaysia.
And this is where that natural material arrives. Inside this factory that Charles Goodyear's chemistry made possible. Inside the
linen, intestine, latex. 3 materials, 3 manufacturing traditions, 3 historical eras.
Every pallet leaving this yard carries the latest iteration of the oldest manufactured product in human history. Each unit inside traced back through 5,000 years.
This silver packet rests on 5,000 years of human knowledge, the efforts of craftsmen, physicians.
From a Roman workshop where a craftsman cleaned animal intestines by hand, to this dispatch yard in Malaysia where trucks leave every hour carrying millions of units. 5,000 years of human history, compressed into this single moment, a hand reaching for a product. 5,000 years of human ingenuity, from a linen sheath in ancient Egypt to this, a sealed silver packet containing the most reliable version of this object ever made. The rubber tree has been tapped today, moat. The latex is already at the factory. The dipping line is already running. From 5,000 years ago worn, to this morning before sunrise, to this factory, to this packet foolery, the most ancient